What's going on, beautiful people? Welcome back to the channel. And right now, you are tuned into the Void series. Okay. So, for people who are fresh to this channel and don't know what the Void series is, I have made a personal challenge to myself and a personal commitment to post every day until we get into the Fire Horse astrology timeline, which I think is February 14th or the 17th or the 21st. I forgot. I don't know what date it is. But basically, I personally feel like I'm in a void right now. Got a little something going on right there. Feel like I'm in a void right now, and so Spirit has guided me to the YouTube channel, guided me to just speak whatever it is that I need to release in these last shitting stages of this wood snake era. Okay, and so I have other videos that I've also posted prior to, right? So this should be day 4 of the void. All right. So if you haven't seen the other videos, go back and watch them joints because I got some heat in it. All right. All right. So we're just gonna get straight into this video. I don't want to make this video too long today, but today I would like to talk about the fear of being seen. And more specifically, it's interesting. I feel like everybody that I know for the most part is going through this experience where there's a block of not being able to expand their business, not being able to put their business online, develop some type of online presence, or just simply just make a post on Instagram. They're going through what we are calling now in this today's era a fear of being seen. So I want to highlight more about what this is and how you can potentially start to work on it. Okay, and of course I'm gonna share some more deeper information towards the end that I think will be very helpful. All right, so let's just get into this. You know what I'm saying? So what we talking about today, Sway? What we talking about today? We're talking about the fear of being seen. All right, so there's a concept called the spotlight effect. All right, so let me show you what the spotlight effect looks like. So say for instance you about to make a post on social media, right? And then you grab your phone, just like I got this phone facing me right now. You grab the phone and you put it in front of you, right? You got it sitting on the iPhone case holder or iPhone stand, and now the phone is sitting next to you, looking directly at you, right? And you're about to press record, and now you're looking at yourself, and you don't know what to say, right? You're just looking at yourself through the camera, but you're stuck, right? You're frozen, right? This is an indicator to let you know that you have a freeze trauma response. Looking at the camera based on however your perception is reflecting or is an indication that you have a overwhelming sensation or overwhelming distressed sensation towards your nervous system, and it's creating a trauma response, which we like to call the freeze response or the freeze state. Your body is frozen. Just imagine that social media was a bear and it was running at you and you don't know what to do. So you just gonna freeze up like you stuck. You can't move. This is what a lot of people experience when they're trying to put more of the information, excuse me, more of the information out on social media, and is trying to be more comfortable with face to camera. So this is the first step of getting past the fear of being seen, is getting more comfortable of just looking at yourself on camera and pressing that little record button and just talking to the camera. This right here is enough to just make a change happen. Get comfortable with this. Start to regulate this part right here. Okay. And some great ways to regulate this would be somatic practices. All right. And also there's a lot of great books on nervous system regulation. um, I can't think of no resources right now, but definitely just look up in Amazon. I think this is one book called Healing the Nervous System or something like that. And it talks about the 4 to 7 or 8 different stages of healing the nervous system. Powerful book. Um, but yes, you want to regulate that nervous system, right? So that's the first understanding about this whole fear of being seen. Okay. So let's go a little bit deeper. So when I talk about the spotlight effect, right? Basically just like how it says, right? The spotlight is on you. That means that everything is watching you. And it feels like everything is trying to see what you about to say, how you about to move, how you about to operate. There like literally feels like a scrutinization happening, right? People are criticizing you. You're not even looking at nobody, you're just looking at the camera. But your mind automatically goes there, right? So the spotlight effect is basically individuals who overestimate other people noticing their appearance, their actions, their mistakes. So it's like you may have this perception that so many people are staring at you that you don't want to make the wrong mistake, right? You are mindful of your actions. You are very self-conscious of your appearance, right? So you may be double checking your hair, or you might try to see if your shirt is on nice. So you try to see if you got your beard combed out. You know, obviously before you get on camera, you do those things, but while you're on camera, you may be also bringing your attention to these small things because you thinking that everyone's going to be paying attention to these small details. So they did some research on this, and they discovered that a lot of people are in an egocentric mindset where they think that everything is centered around them. So they think that people are paying attention to the details of everything that they got going on. So another example would be this: like, say you're walking down the street and you slip on a rock, or you know how sometimes you're walking down the street and you like trip over a rock, or you trip over a crack in the pavement, and then you look down at it to make sure, like, you look to see if nobody was looking, but then you look to see, like, damn, like, what that was, that, like, you get mad at the rock, you know what I'm trying to say? Like, you get mad at the pavement, like, you like, you just slipped on that damn pavement, but you like, man, huh, like, you know what I'm saying, you get mad. But anyway, I think that shit's so funny. But what happens in that scenario, you're gonna become self-conscious, right? And you're gonna start to look around like, I hope nobody didn't see that. And now you, which stems, which makes you start to feel what? Embarrassed, right? Humiliated, right? And there's probably nobody around that saw it, but you have the mindset that probably somebody saw it, and you just start to feel down. You start to feel that embarrassment come in, right? So, um, you got to take that in consideration, that having the spotlight effect, you're trying to avoid a lot of things, right? So you're trying to avoid embarrassment, right? You're trying to avoid making mistakes, right? You're also trying to avoid the fear of being judged. You're trying to avoid criticism. You're trying to avoid misunderstandings, right? That's another aspect to the fear of being seen. You're trying to avoid imposter syndrome. For some strange reason, when we feel the fear of being seen, we feel like people are going to expose us for who we truly are, right? So it's like we don't want people to, it's like it's interesting because it's like we don't want people to, the energy or the person that we put out, we want people to accept that part of us. But then I feel like this is where a misalignment come in at, because if there's still a part of you that thinks that that's not who you're trying to project outwardly to the people, so that people can identify you as who you say you are, then you might need to do some shadow work, right, to see what part of you is creating these narratives that is not who you truly are, that you're putting out on camera. So it's like this discrepancy or this misalignment with two aspects of yourself. And so it's good to go back and revisit or listen and ask that part of yourself, why do you have this notion, this fear of being exposed? Because what we're really talking about is the fear of being exposed. The fear of being seen is a social language that's been adopted, that people are saying that's real popular right now. But the real root cause of what we're talking about right now is the fear of being exposed. The fear of being exposed feels very vulnerable, feels very naked, feels very unsafe for us. And so this imposter syndrome, this false self, this fraud, this fraudulent identity is, it doesn't want to be exposed. So it's constantly trying to convince you to not put yourself out there because we're going to be exposed. Whatever. And then of course you got perfectionist, right? And so, being that we are working with the fear of being exposed, okay, this creates a avoidant behavior. So if you notice what I just said, like, everything I just said comes from a space of avoidant. So if you're trying to avoid the fear of not being judged, avoid the fear of being criticized, avoid the fear of being misunderstood, then as a result, what happens is, right, you don't post on social media, right? You don't network with community events and go out and try to, expand your brand, expand your business, talk to people about what you do. You don't attend any workshops, right? No execution in your business. You don't do anything in your business at all. It is kind of just stagnant, kind of just sitting, complacent, right? And you overall, you are stuck in a freeze or flight response. So get very familiar, if you can, simple Google, and understand your nervous system and the trauma responses that you have when an uncomfortable situation arises. Typically, with people who have fear of what is called exposure, which I'm working through this too. Okay, so I got the gems. All right, so we in this together. Typically, you'll have a freeze response or a frozen response. All right, either you'll get ready to make that post on social media, right, and you'll run away from it, or you about to make that post on social media and you just freeze. It's one of the other two, or it may be both. Okay, for me, I find that it's both. All right. And so, of course, by you not putting out your information for your business, what happens, right? You're not making no extra money. You're not bringing no money in. You're not bringing no traffic in. People don't know who you are. And your business just stand in the background and you continues to work at your job and your business just there, right? Like this is how deep this whole wound goes. It just literally stops everything from evolving. All right. So let's get into some solutions. Okay, let's get into some solutions. So the first thing that you want to do is you want to discover the root. You want to find the root of where did this come from? When did you start to develop the fear of being exposed? Now, it's going to come from three origin points. It could come from some personal experience you had as an adult or maybe a teenager or experience that you had as a child, okay? Or it can come from something that you observe on television, social media, um, um, anything that is in your environment that was, you saw someone was exposing themselves, you could have took that in as like that's what it looks like to be exposed, right? Or you could have listened to some stories of people talking about how to be exposed, right? It could have been at a school, it could have been a school gym, it could have been at the church, it could have been at your job, it could have been at a function that you went to, it could have been at a friend gathering, right? Try to narrow down where did it first come from. That's step one. Okay. Step two, try to understand how did you interpret this experience. Because if you interpret experience as like, yo, I'm not trying to experience that, that looks very bad, that looks very painful, that looks very scary, then that's the narrative that you're still carrying. So you want to go to that narrative, and you want to reframe your interpretation of it, because you got to understand that your interpretation of the experience is not objective, it's subjective. That means you can change it. That means you can change the meaning of the experience. Okay, so let's give an example. Say for instance, you observed, and this is a great example. If you have a fear of being exposed, or you have a fear of exposure, you may have observed that from watching, me personally, back in the day, I used to watch Showtime at Apollo. Showtime at Apollo was, of course, a lot of people should know what this is. It was a performance or some type of what would you call that? I guess you could say a performance show where you go on stage and you sing, you dance, you do some type of activity, some type of theatric activity for the audience, which is at Showtime Apollo, which I believe it was in Harlem in New York. And so I believe, of course, Steve Harvey was the host, and Kiki Shepard, and all these great people, or whatever. But when you watch the show, you see people exposing themselves, right? And as they're exposing themselves, what is the crowd doing? Boo! Get off the stage. And then, of course, you got the Sandman come through, you got the clown come through, and they go ahead and sweep them off the stage. Now, if you was trying to understand at that age, because that was a very young age when I watched that, if you was trying to understand, like, oh, wow, if I ever get on stage and I'm trying to show my talent, people are going to potentially do that to me. That's your interpretation, right? And so what that does is that creates this fear, that creates this shutdown effect, this creates this freeze effect, this creates that I don't think it's safe to get on stage and share my vulnerability and authenticity to the world because they're gonna shoot it down, just like they did on the Apollo show. That might still be your narrative today. Okay. So if that happened when you was 15, 10, 9 years old, whenever Apollo came out, and you're 25, 30, 35, 45 years old, 55 years old, you are still thinking like that. You still have that perception. So you want to go back to that perception and you want to reframe it because I'm pretty sure you have had a lot of experience afterwards that where you had to expose yourself and you did well at it. And they didn't have nobody who tried to humiliate you. They didn't have nobody who tried to ridicule you or criticize you. They probably gave you a lot of love. It was like, yo, you did that, right? You got to pay attention to the evidence that you have now in the current. So you got to go back to that part of yourself. Let's say it's the teenager part of yourself. And you talk to that teenager part of yourself. And you say, look, I once interpreted being exposed like this. But now I interpret it being exposed like this. So you replace the negative interpretation with a positive interpretation. And I'm telling you, this works. All right. Listen to me. This is the secret sauce. Try to do what I'm telling you. Reframe your interpretation. If you reframe your interpretation, your emotions will follow. Your interpretations create the emotions. If you change your interpretation of any experience, not even just this, but any experience, if you change the meaning behind it, because the thing about uh the things that we experience is always up for interpretation. If you ever think about a situation where you're talking to somebody, like let me use an example. Say I'm talking to a woman right now, right? I'm talking to someone, I'm dating someone, right? And I send them a message. I sent them a message. No, let's make it more juicy. Let's make it juicy. Let's make it more juicy. Let's make it detail. Let me go more details. Let me go more details, right? So let's say I'm dating a woman, boom, right? And we've been dating for 3 months, right? And we are vibing. We're having a great time. Things are in alignment. Things are beautiful, right? And the 3 months in, 3 days in, 3 minutes in, let's just say, they go that 333 for you spiritual people, right? We go out on a date and we kiss on this date, right? And we're kissing, we're doing our thing, right? And then I bring her home and we just close out for the evening. Okay. Next day, I'm like reflecting, like, oh man, that was great, man. We had a great time. And oh man, I can't wait to see her again. I send her a message early morning, right? Whatever people say these days, grand rising, divine risings, whatever. Send her a message. And she doesn't respond back at all. About 3 days, she don't respond back at all. What you think? What do you think? And I'm talking to you people out there. What would your interpretation be? So let's go down the line. Okay. Choice A would be she ghosts me. Okay. Choice B would be she didn't like the kiss and she thought my breath would stink or something like that. Okay. Option C or choice C, um, she may have gotten in an accident or something, right? And let's say choice D, um, she's just not interested anymore, right? She just was like, I'm good, or however, right? Now, your mind doesn't really know the true answer. Your mind doesn't know the true answer. So when it doesn't know the true answer, there's a void. There's a void, right? There's a void. You can see the void. I'm trying to draw it. There's a void. And it doesn't know what the void is. So it makes up something to fill the void. So it's going to say anything to fill this void. So it's going to go to past experiences, or it's going to think about experiences or stories that you heard that's similar to this, and it's going to try to replace it to give it some type of satisfaction. Because they always say, you know, what's the saying? Um, um, what is the saying go? Curiosity killed the cat, or however the saying go. But your mind is so curious that it needs an answer. It's like infatuated. It has to know. And so if they don't get the objective response or truth, they're gonna make it up. Now, I want you to use this example in everyday life. You do this all day. We do this all day. Every time we don't really know the truth of something, we just make it up. Everything that we do, we're making it up as we go subjectively. And 9 times out of 10, it's something negative. It's never nothing positive. It's always like, oh, well, they must have ghosted me. Oh, well, they probably thought my breath was stink. Versus, let's get to the truth moment here. She responds back after the 3 days, right? She responds back and say, hey, I'm sorry I couldn't get back to your response, but my mother was sick in the hospital and I just catered to her and I just wanted to give her all of my quality time. Now think about this scenario and think about how you feel now that I just told you the truth of what she really had going on. You feel different. Why do you feel different? Because you're not carrying this interpretation that was negative, that was creating a negative biochemistry effect. You now have the truth that has now released that negative chemistry and now has created a positive chemistry in your body. And now you're like, oh, okay, okay, I bet it's all good. You think just think how many times we do that throughout the day. It's never about us. That's why I guess this whole conversation we're talking about is very egocentric to think that what people have going on is and how they respond to us is predicated upon us. People got their own lives. People are worrying about what they got going on too. So you got to be mindful of that to not think that everybody's worrying about you, including in this particular case if you're dating someone or you're in this type of scenario. So I say that to say your interpretation of the experience is so important. You can literally reframe it. You don't always have to go to a space of negativity. Now the thing about this practice is it takes a lot of awareness. You just can't be like, oh, I got a situation I'm kind of thinking about. No, you have to be mindful in a 24-hour operation, at least a good bit of operation, maybe 12-hour operation, maybe 6 hours. Excuse me. I ate some red beans a minute ago. I think I'm just got the acid reflux. But just try to be mindful, okay? I won't put no time limit on anything. Just try to be mindful of it. So, like I said, you get an experience, right? Based on what we just said, the experience was the girl didn't text back in a timely fashion. That's the first step. Second step, what's my interpretation? Pay attention to your interpretation. If your interpretation is something that's negative based and you never found out the true answer, then you're making it up and you're gonna create suffering for yourself, unnecessary suffering. You can literally say, you know what? She didn't text me back. I hope she's doing okay, and I'll just keep my best wishes and hope that she'll text back whenever she can. Or you could take a step further if y'all that tight. You know what I'm saying? You might want to go over there by her house, check in on her, make sure she's safe. Right? You might want to do something like that, or reach out to a friend. Make sure, try to get the solution, try to get the true objective truth before you just kind of take a relaxation on it. But ultimately, try to understand the truth first. If you don't know the truth, you're just making shit up. And if you're making shit up, you're just gonna have a negative experience in your body unnecessarily. All right. So get the interpretation and then try to reframe it to a positive interpretation. Just do those 3 steps. If you do those 3 steps, I promise you, you're going to feel a shift in your energy. All right. So let's move forward from that. So let's wrap all this up. Okay. The fear of being seen is a fear of being exposed. When you feel what it feels like, just close your eyes and imagine yourself being exposed. However you feel in that moment, when you just imagining it, that's how you're going to be feeling every time you try to expose yourself. You don't even have to go on social media to feel it. You can just imagine it. And if you imagine it, you know you're not ready, quote unquote, with your nervous system. Your nervous system is too sensitive. And that's why you keep responding in ways that is sabotaging everything that you're trying to do, because your nervous system is not regulated enough for it. So you want to do some, like I said, some somatic practices, some nervous regulations practices to help to desensitize and regulate that nervous system. Now, what I do want to share, because I said I had something to share towards the end, is I'm going to start offering services for people who have struggles with this. So if you have challenges and struggles with this, please, okay, stay tuned because I'll be offering these services soon. Okay. So what I'll be doing is I'm going to be helping spiritual entrepreneurs close the gap between vision and execution. I'm the expert that comes in and help you close that gap. So what is the gap? The gap is everything that we're talking about right now. The gap is you having self-sabotaging beliefs, limited beliefs around your business, limiting money beliefs behind your business, or this an inability to exert or execute in your business so you can expand your business. A lot of us are literally stuck right now. Like I said, we are in the void. A lot of us are stuck right now because we want to put our shit out. We want to put our creativity out, but we keep getting our nervous system overstimulated and it causes us to just be in a frozen state. So I'll be offering services that not only help you reprogram your subconscious mind, but also to help dissolve and help dislodge that overwhelming sensation that is stuck in your nervous system. All right. So this is a powerful practice. I'm not going to be taking everybody because this is also an energetic practice. So just a little FYI. Okay. This is an energetic practice, meaning I have to connect to your energy to make this happen. So it's going to be very alignment based. That's why I say I'm working with spiritual entrepreneurs because spiritual entrepreneurs know that they just don't take money just because it's on the table. It has to be in alignment. And that's how I operate. Okay. So just be on the lookout for that. Right. And like I said, we're going to continue this void. And if you felt like this was helpful to some type of degree, please drop a comment in the chat, right? And I'm gonna let y'all go. All right, and you know what it is. Peace.